Hello and welcome to India Business Hour. I'm Parikshit Luthra. Here are the headlines we are tracking this evening. US court charges Gautam Adani and others for allegedly bribing Indian government officials to the tune of 2,000 crore rupees to obtain solar energy contracts. Claims Adani offered 1,750 crore rupees as corrupt payment to a high-ranking official in Andhra Pradesh. Adani Group refutes all charges, calling them baseless. Adani stocks nosedive, wiping out more than 2 lakh crore rupees in market capitalization. Adani Green scraps a $600 million bond issue. Moody's says the US indictment is a negative for the conglomerate. PSU bank stocks plunge as investors worry about the 88,000 crore rupee exposure to the Adani Group. US indictment claims Adani misled financial institutions and investors in India by concealing information about the probe. Adani was first informed about the US probe in March 2023. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi demands the arrest of Gautam Adani and accuses Prime Minister Modi of protecting him. BJP hits back at Gandhi for attempting to tarnish the Prime Minister's image and says BJP was not in power in the states mentioned in the US indictment. Adani Group stocks drag the stock markets. Nifty declines to its lowest level in 5 months. Indian rupee sinks to a record low as the US dollar continues to rally. There is no stopping the Bitcoin rally as it races towards the $1 lakh mark. Prices have surged more than 30% since Donald Trump's victory in the US presidential election. Ola Electric is laying off 500 people as part of a retrenchment exercise that started in June. Sources say that the exercise is aimed at optimizing efficiency, profitability, and margins. The US Justice Department urges a federal court to force Google to sell its Chrome browser. This is a part of a list of US government's proposals in order to restrict the tech giant's monopoly on internet search. Google says the DOJ's proposal would harm Americans' privacy and security, hinder their investments in artificial intelligence, and hurt companies. Kyiv claims Russia launched an intercontinental ballistic missile targeting Ukraine overnight. This is the first time that Moscow used such a long-range missile since the start of the war. The attack comes within 24 hours of Ukraine firing United Kingdom-made missiles into Russian territory. International Criminal Court issues arrest warrants against Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. Senior Hamas leader Mohammad Deif also faces similar warrants for alleged war crimes. The top story tonight, a US court has indicted Gautam Adani, his nephew Sagar Adani and several other officials for allegedly bribing Indian government officials to obtain solar energy contracts. Now, according to the indictment, Adani allegedly paid bribes to the tune of over 2,000 crore rupees. This included an alleged bribe of 1,750 crore rupees to a high-ranking official in Andhra Pradesh government who has not been named. US authorities allege Gautam Adani met this Andhra official personally to advance the execution of the deal. In a separate indictment, the US Securities Market Regulator claims Gautam Adani personally met with the then Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Jagan Mohan Reddy in August 2021. Adani allegedly asked the Chief Minister why the state has not entered into a power purchase agreement and inquired about the incentives needed to do so. SEC claims Adani paid or promised a bribe for the power supply agreements. Shortly after the meeting, the state agreed to an agreement. The Adani Group is also accused of concealing information about the FBI probe to Indian financial institutions and investors. The indictment says Sagar Adani's electronic devices were seized in March 2023 and Gautam Adani was informed about the probe at the same time. In response, Adani has refuted all the allegations, calling it baseless and categorically denied any wrongdoing. Adani went on to say the defendants are presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty. Hormuz Patakia is joining us with more on the US indictment and Adani Group's response. Hormuz, take us through the details.
Some more granular details that have emerged in the US District Court order, and they take us through a step-by-step process of how the turn of events actually transpired. Now, they mentioned that this US issuer and the Indian energy company were awarded LOAs, which is a letter of award for manufacturing linked solar tenders offered by the Solar Energy Corporation of India. Now, as per this, the US issuer was supposed to supply 4 gigawatts of solar power to the SECI, while the Indian energy company was supposed to supply 8 gigawatts of solar power. Now, SECI was supposed to be the agency who would look for the state government agencies who would buy this 12 gigawatt of combined power that both the US issuer and the Adani group would be combining and supplying to the SECI. Now, at the time of the award, it was the largest project among the solar energy projects on record, is what the Adani group also mentioned. Now, some of the 7 entities that are mentioned in this order from the US District Court, they include the likes of the Chhattisgarh State Power Distribution Corporation, Tamil Nadu Generation and Distribution Corporation, Gridco, Jammu and Kashmir Power Corporation, and 3 entities from Andhra Pradesh. And they include Andhra Pradesh Central, Eastern and Southern Power Distribution Companies. Now, what the order also mentions is that in March of 2023, the FBI special agents took custody of Sagar Adani's electronic devices post a judicially authorized search warrant, and after giving him the search warrant, he was also served with a grand jury subpoena, is what the district court order mentions. Now, the 5 counts on which the charges have been framed, they include the likes of conspiracy to violate the FCPA, second one being the securities fraud conspiracy, the third one being the wire fraud conspiracy, the fourth one is also a securities fraud pertaining to the 2021 dollar bond sale by Adani Green Energy, and the last one being the conspiracy to obstruct justice. Now, on Thursday afternoon, the Adani Group also put out an official statement saying that all of these allegations are baseless. They will seek all possible legal recourse available and that they are fully compliant with all the laws. But the street did not take it too well. The Adani Group stocks ended lower, with Adani Enterprises having its worst day since February of 2023, and that showed up in the stock prices as well.
This is the first time there is a criminal indictment from a bribery charges. The Indian courts had not looked at the Adani Group from that perspective deeply. So the allegations were more to do with the minimum public shareholding, violation of securities law. But this is a much more serious allegation from a perspective of bribing public officials, bribing to get contracts, etc. Long-only funds would shy away from this because of their reputation, from taking positions, or would unwind their positions. 3, even project financing for Adani Group will become very difficult.
There is a process of settlement as well under the US law in case there are allegations on the FCPA or under the bribery laws in the US. So I don't think this is anything which is worrisome. It's like a fizz. And yes, allegations are there. There have been some observations here and there in relation to bribery allegations. But to my mind, there's nothing earth-shattering in this. It's always possible to settle this, and the dust will settle down.
The US indictment on the Adani Group has claimed that the company misled financial institutions and investors in India by concealing information about the probe. Gautam Adani was also informed about the probe in March 2023. This information was not disclosed to market regulator SEBI or stock exchanges. Ashmit Kumar joins us now. Ashmit, the US indictment raises multiple questions, doesn't it?
Well, the second key question that has arisen is that did Gautam Adani and Sagar Adani mislead the Bombay Stock Exchange and the National Stock Exchange? We'll go through the indictment order for you for that. Now, what's important is that it points out, the indictment order points out that in paragraph number 103, the FBI reached out to Sagar Adani in March of 2023, on March 17 to be specific, and then subsequently on the same day, his devices were seized. He was served with a search warrant, Sagar Adani, which and that search warrant very clearly listed all these allegations and charges of bribery, that he was also served with a grand jury subpoena. And that same paragraph of the indictment order then says that this information traveled to Gautam Adani on the subsequent day, which is March 18th of last year, March 18th, 2023, that even Gautam Adani knew by then that there was a DOJ investigation, there was a FBI investigation into these bribery charges. Then the indictment order goes on to say that both Gautam Adani and Sagar Adani have caused people to make false and misleading statements on their behalf, that they've made misleading statements to the media, to exchanges, as well as to financial institutions, that neither did Gautam Adani or neither did Sagar Adani were in the know of these proceedings launched by the DOJ. In fact, in paragraph 120, it very clearly spells out that there was a letter that went from Adani Green to both the exchanges, both the NSE as well as the BSE, which said that the company was not aware of any ongoing investigations into allegations of bribery by the Department of Justice in the US. This, the indictment order says, is clearly in breach, is clearly false, is clearly misleading, because about a year back they were already in the know of this FBI investigation. And not just that, let's also bear in mind that this, if found to be true, could also potentially be in violation of SEBI listing guidelines, SEBI disclosure norms, the SEBI Act itself, and therefore could invite further action by the market regulator here in India.
Adani Group stocks took a beating in trade, wiping out more than 2 lakh crore rupees in market capitalization in a single session. The group stocks fell between 7 and 23%, with Adani Enterprises falling the most. Overall, Nifty and Sensex reversed Tuesday's gains to end with cuts of over 0.5%. The Nifty ended at a 5-month low. Broader markets fell in line with the blue chips. In fact, investors lost 5.2 lakh crore rupees in the market today. Adani Group stocks accounted for 42% of this loss. Shares of public sector lenders, which have a cumulative exposure of 88,000 crore in the Adani Group, plunged in trade. State Bank of India has the maximum exposure to the conglomerate, amounting to approximately 27,000 crore rupees as of the last fiscal. Ritu Singh joins us now with the details. Ritu, take us through the Adani Group's debt picture.
Well, if we take a look at Adani Group's debt, as of FY24, its total debt stood at 2,41,000 crore rupees, which includes about 2.21 lakh crores in long-term debt, which makes up 92% of the total, and the rest in working capital debt. But the group continues to hold significant liquidity buffers with a cash balance of nearly 60,000 crores, which is about 25% of its total debt. Now, let's also look at where this debt comes from. Well, domestic Indian banks and financial institutions contribute the most, making up 36% of its total borrowing. That includes about 75,877 crores in long-term loans and 12,223 crores in working capital loans as of FY24. Global capital markets come next with 29% of the total borrowing, followed by global banks at 26%, and the rest comes from domestic capital markets and other sources. But if you break this down further, public sector banks have lent about 36,447 crores to the group across long-term and working capital debt, while private banks account for about 8,500 crores. Domestic financial institutions and NBFCs add another 43,000 odd crores, the bulk of which we know is from LIC. So individual lenders, LIC of course tops the list. SBI follows with about 27,000 crores of exposure. Axis Bank less than 9,000 crores to the group. Other major lenders include Punjab National Bank, REC, Bank of Baroda and IndusInd Bank. But keep in mind, there is no default yet. There is adequate liquidity buffers. So banks do not seem overtly concerned about Adani Group as things stand.
And Solar Energy Corporation, a public sector undertaking under the central government, is at the heart of the bribery charges against the Adani Group. This company was supposed to find purchasers among the Indian power distribution companies to buy the electricity supplied by Adani Group. The chairman and managing director of SECI has told CNBC TV 18 there is no basis to the probe, and they have not formally received any documents from the US authorities. But when asked if the Solar Energy Corporation will scrap agreements signed by the Adani Group with state distribution companies, the chief of the body refused to respond. And US authorities have also charged former officials at Azure Power for allegedly conspiring with the Adani Group to defraud investors. Responding to a query from CNBC TV 18, Azure Power said it has been cooperating with US authorities and will continue to do so. The company said former officials of Azure named in the indictment have been separated from the company for more than a year. So what are the next legal steps that the Adani Group can take now? Legal sources have told CNBC TV 18 that the accused can either submit to the court's jurisdiction or challenge it. If the accused contests the orders, a trial will begin. The Foreign Extortion Prevention Act has also been invoked in this matter. This allows the US prosecutors to move against government officials as well. The group can also try to settle the matter. However, the settlement will involve a very high fine. Sources have said that the US courts and SEC will consider the bribe amount as well as the capital raised in the United States to determine the settlement amount. Senior Supreme Court lawyer H.P. Ranina with his views on what the potential financial implications could be.
In America, this is left to the judges to decide. And sometimes they impose a very heavy fine, sometimes they impose a reasonable fine. So really, it's very difficult to suggest how it's going to pan out. But certainly the amounts would be huge. And therefore, it will have an impact on the Indian companies as well, because some of the funds will have to go from India.
And Kenya has cancelled a proposed $700 million power transmission deal signed with the Adani Group. The country has also scrapped the procurement process to expand the country's main airport. In his address to the nation, Kenya's President William Ruto said he has directed cancellation of the contracts and cited new information provided by investigative agencies and partner nations. To the political slugfest back home, Congress leader Rahul Gandhi has demanded for the arrest of Gautam Adani and accused Prime Minister Modi of protecting businessmen. Congress MP Manish Tiwari called for a joint parliamentary probe. The BJP hit back at Gandhi for attempting to tarnish the Prime Minister's image. The party has also maintained that it was not in power in the states mentioned in the US indictment.
हिंदुस्तान में अदानी जी के खिलाफ कुछ नहीं हो रहा और ये हम मांग बहुत दिनों से कर रहे हैं। अदानी जी का अरेस्ट होना चाहिए, आज अरेस्ट होना चाहिए। माधवी बुच जो हैं, जो उनकी प्रोटेक्टर हैं, जिन्होंने कोई इन्वेस्टिगेशन नहीं किया, उनको हटाया जाना चाहिए, उन पर इन्वेस्टिगेशन होना चाहिए।
The concerns have been deeper and profound, going back to the Hindenburg revelations. And if you do recollect, we had done a conversation on that. And at that point in time, also I had said that a joint parliamentary committee needs to be constituted in order to go into not only the allegations which came out in the Hindenburg report, but more importantly, the credibility, the integrity, the processes which our market regulator follows.
This so-called report also speaks of allegations relating to 4 states between 2021 and 22. These 4 states were Odisha, Andhra Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Tamil Nadu, and all of them had non-BJP governments. So if at all the allegation is that bribes were paid in these 4 states to officials of the government, these were officials of Congress government. These were officials of India Alliance governments. So therefore India Alliance and Congress must answer that are they saying that yes, we did take the bribes?
And the Indian rupee hit a fresh low of 84.5 to the dollar on continued selling by foreign funds. However, it ended the day at 84.49 as the central bank continued to supply dollars. Lata Venkatesh joins us now. Lata, what's dragging the currency?
Yes, that's right. It has been a down day for the rupee and it touched a kind of a psychologically important mark of 84.50 to the dollar. There were 2 reasons. One, of course, was quite a bit of foreign selling, probably exacerbated by sentiment because of the Adani news, but also because the rupee didn't fall on Wednesday when there was no forex trading and the dollar had considerably strengthened from 106.2 to 106.6. leading to some kind of weakness in other Asian currencies. So there was a bit of a catch-up fall as well in India. The conversation in dealing rooms is that perhaps there is not much of fall left in the currency. The intensity of foreign selling of Indian equities and therefore buying of dollars is reduced a bit. So the Reserve Bank can support the Indian currency by selling lesser amounts of dollar because the intensity of dollar buying has lessened. Also, the more important point is that there are no short dollar positions left. Almost everyone is long on the dollar versus the rupee. So perhaps the intensity of the fall is not much likely now that 84.50 is here.
And the crypto bull run continues. World's largest cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, has hit a fresh record high, breaching the $98,000 mark for the first time. This after options on spot Bitcoin exchange traded funds went live on the Nasdaq. Other cryptocurrencies like Ether and Solana also rallied. Cryptocurrencies have been on the rise amid optimism over Donald Trump's re-election as the US president. Bitcoin has gained more than 40% during the period. And coming up on India Business Hour, the US government urges a federal court to force Google to sell its Chrome browser. And you can also catch all CNBC TV 18's news and updates on Facebook, X, Threads, Instagram, and JioCinema. You're watching India Business Hour. Ukraine has claimed that Russia has launched an intercontinental ballistic missile for the first time during the war. Ukraine added that the missile was launched targeting the central part of the country. This comes a day after the Ukrainian military fired a barrage of British-made missiles into Russian territory for the first time. Britain's decision to approve these strikes were made in response to the deployment of North Korean troops on Russia's border with Ukraine. The situation across West Asia continues to remain grim. Israeli forces have deepened their offensive in Gaza, killing at least 88 Palestinians in 2 attacks. Israel has also attacked parts of Lebanon and Syria, killing at least 45 people across both the countries. Meanwhile, the American Senate has rejected a bid to stop arms shipments to Israel. This comes after the US vetoed a UN Security Council resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. The International Criminal Court has issued an arrest warrant against Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, former Israeli Defense Minister Gallant and Hamas leader Ibrahim al-Masri over alleged war crimes. The judges stated that there were reasonable grounds to arrest them. They believe that Netanyahu, Gallant and al-Masri bear criminal responsibility for the war crime of starvation as a method of warfare. The United States Justice Department has proposed to force Google to sell its Chrome browser. This is in a bid to reduce the tech giant's control and monopoly over online searches. The DOJ also wants rules to stop Google from using its Android software to give its search engine an unfair advantage. The tech giant has responded saying that DOJ's proposal would harm Americans' privacy and security. It would also hinder their investments in artificial intelligence and hurt companies. Back home, market regulator SEBI has abolished the requirement of a mandatory security deposit with the exchanges before a public issue. The move will be applicable with immediate effect. Before this, any company looking to go public had to deposit an amount equal to 1% of the issue size with the stock exchanges. The deposit was returned to the company after the public issue. Moving on to the automobile sector, Ola Electric is laying off 500 people as part of a restructuring exercise that started in June. Sources told CNBC TV 18 that the company is undertaking this exercise to become profitable and improve margins. Ola declined to comment on the query. Immediately, as of October last year, the company claims to employ over 3,700 people. Reliance Jio, Bharti Airtel and Vodafone Idea continue to witness a drop in subscribers for the 3rd consecutive month in September. The 3 private telcos have seen their user base decline after raising mobile rates in the range of 11 to 25% in July. BSNL is the only telco which added wireless customers in September. The state-run firm did not raise tariffs. The JSW Group is targeting an initial public offer for its cement division by January 2025. That's the word coming in from the group's chairman, Sajjan Jindal. Speaking exclusively to CNBC TV 18 on the sidelines of the annual tech meeting of the Indian Institute of Metals, Jindal also expressed interest in potential investment opportunities in the Indian steel sector.
Oh, 2 to 3 years is a long time, but we have early next year as in 25, we will have IPO for our cement. JSW Cement probably would hit the IPO.
The Indian government has strongly dismissed a Canadian media report linking Prime Minister Modi, Foreign Minister Jaishankar and National Security Advisor Ajit Doval with the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. The Foreign Minister called the report ludicrous. The ministry added that smear campaigns like this one will only further damage already strained ties. Delhi's air quality has improved marginally from severe to very poor. Though the overall air quality has improved, several areas in the region continue to reel under the severe category. Just yesterday, Delhi government ordered its offices to operate at half strength, barring the ones providing essential services. Before we go, on This Speaks Young Turks Reloaded, Shireen Bhan speaks to former SoftBank CFO Alok Sama about his new book, The Money Trap, and his experiences working with SoftBank's founder Masayoshi Son, whom he remembers as the crazy guy who bet on the future. Sama was in the room when SoftBank wrote its first checks for Indian startups such as Paytm, Oyo, Ola Cabs, and Snapdeal. Here's a sneak peek of the conversation with Sama.
5 or 6 year period when I was at SoftBank, so much happened. SoftBank could have bought NVIDIA for $83 billion. Sounds like a lot of money, over $3 trillion today.
Your bullshit meter went off when you met Adam Newman, and you couldn't believe why Masa was willing to bet all of this money on WeWork.
Adam came along at a time when the major SoftBank commitments were made, at a time when Masa had a problem, which is, how am I going to put this amount of money to work? That's when the mistakes were made.
The book's called The Money Trap.
Yeah.
And it's almost like the Hotel California-esque kind of feeling where you can check out whenever you want to, but you can never really
No, that's
leave.
exactly. People see that title and their reaction is, I immediately know what you mean. I'm in the money trap. And you need an extraordinary degree of conviction to break away. Money and power, people will do a lot of things. I mean, it's the oldest story in the world, right? So just be aware when the stakes are high, it's not for the faint-hearted.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Business Hour. Thank you for watching. News continues right here on CNBC TV 18.